Hello, my name is Eric Belmonte. I'm the Director of Safety and Health for Quikrete and Custom Building Products. In today's training, we will briefly review the previous week's information and see how it all ties together into an implementation plan. As we have discussed during this month, there have been many hand injuries at all of our companies over the past few years. In order to eliminate hand injuries, we need everyone to focus on identifying hand hazards and taking the proper action to eliminate them to prevent future injuries. If we don't learn from our actions, we are destined to repeat them. We need to be proactive instead of reactive and use the available tools and develop additional tools where needed to help eliminate hand injuries. In week one, we recommitted ourselves to the Vision Zero philosophy. Zero accidents are possible if we are all striving toward the same goal. There have been many locations throughout all the different companies that have gone 10 years or more without a lost time injury. These plants can achieve Vision Zero. All plants can. During week one, we also reviewed hand injury statistics and discussed hand hazards at each of our locations. In week two, we had each plant conduct a hand hazard assessment of their locations. Each plant separated employees into teams to conduct this exercise in their work areas. Each team looked to identify high-risk hand hazards such as pinch points, hot materials, or areas which hands could be crushed. These types of hand hazards could lead to lacerations, cuts, punctures, strains, sprains, amputations, and fractures. After identifying these hand hazards, the team would develop what action should be taken to eliminate the hand hazard. In week three, we discussed the best practices in eliminating hand hazards, and we then prioritized the hazards found at each of our locations to see where we would need to focus on first. We then had each group develop a sustainable corrective action plan to fix or eliminate hand hazards for each location. For this week, we will put all that we have learned over the past few weeks together into an implementation plan. The first step in the implementation process is defining your goals. Determine what you hope to accomplish when your project is complete. You can revise the goal if needed as we get more into the implementation process. Our goal from this training is to fix or eliminate hand hazards in order to prevent injuries. Once you have a good idea of the goal you want to achieve, you could zero in on these goals by collecting information such as reviewing past hand injuries, near misses, safety behavior audits, job task analysis, along with the processes associated with hand injuries. Discuss with coworkers who conduct plant inspections and/or were involved in accident investigations of hand injuries to dig deeper to the root cause of these injuries and what was put in place to eliminate future injuries. Also, reach out to your local safety source for additional feedback. In step 3 of the implementation process, we must determine what hand hazards take priority based on the frequency, likelihood, and injury severity using the risk assessment spreadsheet. In order to address hand hazards, we should first focus on those that have the most exposure frequency, are highly likely to happen, and can cause the most severe type of injury first. We can then work on those hazards which aren't as frequent, likely, or can cause a less serious injury. All hand hazards should be addressed over time. Using an example of using a manual retractable box cutter, we have determined that employees use this device multiple times a day, so frequency is a 5. Likelihood is possible, maybe even probable, so that's a 3, and severity is a level 3 also. Level 3 states that injuries are likely to involve medical treatment and lost time from work, but with full recovery. This puts our risk level at 45. The highest possible level is 125, with the lowest being 1. In the bottom example, with new controls of using a self-retracting box cutter along with training, the frequency is still a 5, but the likelihood has dropped to unlikely with a less serious injury. This brings the risk down to 10 compared to 45 with existing controls. Here is an additional tool that we use to map out risk. It is similar to the risk assessment worksheet, but only focuses on potential of injury severity and probability of occurrence. As you can see, we need to focus on the hand hazards that have the highest probability of occurrence along with the greatest potential of severity and work down from there. Ask yourself, do you have hazards that you and your employees overlook just because they have become familiar? Most of the company's recent injuries involved serious hazards that people didn't see or thought were a problem. If you aren't aware of your hazards, get a different set of eyes to help you. Don't forget that complacency kills. Don't become comfortable with hazards just because employees don't get hurt every time they're exposed to them. The fourth step in the implementation process is to set deadlines, but don't forget to add wiggle room, as things don't always go as planned, even if you do everything in your power to follow the schedule. By adding wiggle room to your schedule, you can ensure your corrective action plan stays on track instead of keeping tight deadlines and failing to meet them. Look at short-term fixes for now to reduce the likelihood of an injury, but follow up on the long-term fix as these have the most impact. These fixes could be tools, training, guarding, job task analysis, changes in layout or design, or administrative controls, just to name a few. Step 5. Assigning tasks and responsibilities. Every implementation plan must include a list of responsibilities with team members assigned to each one. By assigning responsibilities, you can assess the performance of each team member and monitor progress more closely. Assigning responsibility is different from assigning individual tasks. One team member may be responsible for overseeing the project, while you may assign 3 other team members to handle communication of the project progress to employees. The team leader needs to be sure to make expectations clear. Communication is the key to ensure everyone is on the same page and can give team members clarity on who's doing what, why, how, where, and when. Step 6. Allocate resources. Resources may include money, personnel, software, equipment, and other materials. Time can also be a resource because team members you need to complete the project may be working on other projects. Ask yourself the following questions while identifying available resources for your project. What is our priority level? This was discussed in Step 3. Who is available to work on this project? What budget or tools are available? What additional resources do we need? Who needs to approve the resource allocation plan? Answering these questions will increase the likelihood of hitting your goal by the deadline. In summary on how to implement your plan, you must first define your goal, determine what you hope to accomplish when your project is complete. Once you have a good idea of the goal you want to achieve, you can then move to step 2 by collecting information such as reviewing past hand injuries, near misses, SBAs, JTAs, along with the processes associated with hand injuries in order to help zero in on your goal. In step 3 of the process, you must determine what hand hazards take priority based on frequency, likelihood, and injury severity using the risk assessment spreadsheet or other tools. Step 4 is to set deadlines, but don't forget to add wiggle room as things don't always go as planned. Remember to look at the short-term fixes for now to reduce the likelihood of an injury, but also follow up on long-term fixes as they have the most impact. These fixes could be tools, training, guarding, JTAs, change in layout or design, or administrative controls to name a few. In step 5, you are to assign tasks and responsibilities. The team leader needs to be clear to ensure all team members know the expectations. And the last step is to allocate resources, which may include money, personnel, software, equipment, and other materials. Thank you for your attention during this short training session. And remember, if there is a possible hazard detected, always keep your hands well protected. Have a safe day.